Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the MCDFNL Footy Preview Show, proudly brought to you by Bendigo Bank, of course, and we're back for another week of big football action in the Maryborough Castlemaine District Football Netball League. I'm Shaun Kelly, this is Sam Gowers. Sammy, welcome back to the show, mate.
Thanks, mate. Happy to be here.
Fantastic work by yourself in recent weeks. The train's just rolling along nicely now.
It is going very well indeed.
Let's talk about your ankle. How is it?
Back.
I'm back. Back and about. Who and Natty playing? Oh, you're playing Malden this week. I see you can smell an easy kill, so you think that you're back in.
Yeah, I might just play up forward though, just to rest.
Here we go.
Yeah,
So you're going to get amongst the goals?
No, I'll probably be in the back pocket.
Yeah, very good. That's what I like to hear. Fantastic trip before we get into this week's matches as well by the AFL Goldfields under-17 side returning back from Townsville yesterday as it was. Good trip. Beat AFL Cairns by 69 points. Beat AFL Townsville Mackay by 9 points. More importantly, the MCDFNL boys, the six that were up there, all fantastic. Really played well. Cal Welling's got the best on ground medal in the second game. Trent Mortlock was captain in the first game, kicked the goal in the second game. Boys all did really well, and from what I hear off the field, fantastically behaved, really represented the league in a fantastic fashion. So well done to the six boys that went up there, really doing the MCDFNL proud.
Saw a few Facebook posts as well. The weather looked a lot nicer up there than it has been around here.
A heck of a lot nicer. I believe Brandon Weatherson ate 11 maxibons in one day.
I think he does that down here though.
He's a bit of a mess, isn't he?
He is.
He is indeed, but we won't go into that. Fantastic trip by the boys. They're back safe and sound in Victoria, and probably most of them ready to front up for their club sides tomorrow, given that they're only young. They've got plenty of stamina in them. 3 games of footy in a week. Doesn't matter with these lads, does it?
Not a problem.
Not a one at all. Speaking of this week's games, let's launch straight into it and have a look at them. Avoca taking on Trentham at the Avoca Public Park, and the doggies are up and about. They got their first win last week against Denali. I reckon they can nearly turn it into 2 in a row.
Yeah, they just snagged a win over the Eagles last week, 1 goal, but they'd be pretty confident, the boys. They've got a bit of momentum, might roll on over the Saints here, I reckon.
And that's exactly what it is sometimes. We say it's only a 1-goal win, but it's that momentum that wins like that can produce, get teams going, get a bit of enthusiasm around the club. And they'll take up against a Trentham side that have been a bit down in the last couple of weeks. They were okay against Harcourt at home last week, but they got smacked like a red-headed stepchild the week before against Lexington, and it'll be interesting to see how they travel this week.
They'll have offended all the redheads in the league with that comment.
Oh, the red-headed stepchildren anyway.
Yeah, there's probably not many of them.
No, that's right.
But yeah, I reckon the Dogs might roll the Saints here.
Yeah, I'm tipping Avoca in this one as well. Going to be very interesting to see how this one pans out, because I'm not entirely confident of my tip. But I'm sticking with Avoca. I'm thinking that Trentham might get close, though. Campbell's Creek taking on Carisbrook at Campbell's Creek. Interesting sort of game, this one. Creek, as we know, very good at home throughout the season. Weren't too bad last week against Newstead in pretty horrible conditions. They'll fancy themselves against Carisbrook here, who are just starting to get their troops back on the park.
Yeah, they will fancy themselves. I can't see them getting over Carisbrook, though. We know Carisbrook's got that depth, even though they've had those injuries, so they can cover them. And yeah, players starting to creep back into the side for Brook, which is going to give them a big lift. Matt Bilton's clearance has gone through.
Yes, it has.
He won't line up this week, but the week after he'll be back, which is a massive, massive boost for the Redbacks.
Just looking to see they play Trentham that week, out at Trentham on a Sunday, so very...
Yeah, maybe he won't play then.
Maybe he won't play at all, but Liam Cunningham, 9 snags last week for Brook as well, has really been in some form up forward. At the other end of the ground, Adam Pollock for Campbell's Creek's been one of the finds of the year and is kicking goals and playing in the ruck as well, and just really doing a fantastic job for Creek. So really good matchup if Pollock starts in the ruck coming up against Jacko Bowen.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Pollock, like you said, bit of a find. No one really heard much chat about him during the off-season, but he's certainly a big boy, and it'll be hard to combat, I think.
He's a big man, that's for sure. Don't you worry about that. Denali taking on Royal Park. Denali, I've done well there. That's what happens when you transition from one to another. Denali taking on Royal Park at Deledio Reserve on the weekend. Denali still searching for that first win. They couldn't quite get it last weekend up against Avoca. Royal Park did enough last weekend, I thought, against Talbot. I went and had a look at Bushy go around, and they were good in patches. The conditions weren't great at all, as many teams would have seen last weekend, so can't really glean a lot out of it, but they did what they had to do, got the job done, and I reckon they'll do the same against Denali.
Yeah, so do I. We've seen Bushy showcase what they've got so far this year, a couple of impressive wins, and I think they'll just be too good for Denali here. 7
wins for Bushy now, after from 9 games as well. We're going to round 10 this week. They get another win here, that's 8 wins. Even if they drop every other game for the season, they turn 8-8. win this week, Bushy are playing finals.
They certainly are. It was at the start of the year. It was almost a bit of a novelty thing to see how long the streak could go for. But I think they've shown everyone that they're the real deal and they'll play finals this year.
They will indeed. Wouldn't they love being scheduled to play on Hedges Oval in the first week of the finals?
They certainly would be a big advantage for them.
A huge crowd as well, which is exactly what we want. Malden taking on Natty Bialaba at Malden this weekend. You'd think that your troop should be too strong for the Dons.
Yeah, the Swannies were a bit down last week against Lexington in those horrible conditions that we're talking about. Only 2 goals. But, Malden battling big time this season, so I think the Swannies should get a win here.
Yeah, Swannies for mine as well here. Looking pretty good at the moment. Last week notwithstanding, but coming up against the Lexington side that are firing on all cylinders at the moment. Almost match of the round for me this next game. Obviously knowing that there's a fairly big Sunday game happening, but Maryborough Rovers taking on Talbot at Jubilee Oval, this weekend. This is a huge game for both teams. Talbot did all right in a scrap last week. They were with Bushy all day and got to within 3 points late in the game, and I thought they could have nearly rolled over them. Didn't quite do it. Maryborough Rovers, though, we know how good they've been in recent weeks. Have fallen off the pace a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but they've played some pretty good sides. At home, they'll be looking for this one.
Yeah, this is a really, really tough one to tip. Like you said, Talbot's struggling to produce that sort of full-quarter effort that they need to win games. They keep getting close, but they keep copying these slow starts, and it's proving costly.
Yep.
I'm going to go with the Hawks, but not entirely confident.
I'm exactly the same as you. I'm going with the Hawks because what I saw last week I was impressed with. Matthew Smith, our friend.
Well, we use the term friend loosely.
Oh, he's a friend of mine. I don't know if he's a friend of yours. He's a pest of yours.
Yes.
Don't know if he should be playing at the moment.
Yeah,
The way that he carried himself last week, got a few kicks, but you could just see he wasn't moving well at the ball at all. He's got an ankle foot injury that he's been carrying, and he's played the last couple of weeks. And the only problem that Talbot have got is that they have to keep playing because they have to keep winning to play in the finals. They're outside of the top 8 now. They need this game, and even with Smith at 50%, they still look a good side because he can still shape up and really, really drive them off half back.
Yeah, the problem with that is, though, they keep playing, that injury is not going to get any better. Come finals time, he might be able to take the field. So it's a real gamble, and we'll see how it pays off.
They've got the gamble of, do they play him and he may break down in the finals, or do they not play him and not make finals?
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know which way you go.
It is indeed. Hawks just would not surprise me in the slightest if the Rovers got over the line here. Let's have a look at Sunday and a couple of really big games this week. Harcourt taking on Lexington at Harcourt. Harcourt moved into the top 8 last week for the first time this season, and they've won 4 of their last 6 now. They show no signs of wanting to go anywhere but that top 8.
Yeah, like we say week after week, Harcourt just keep improving. They told us, like we said at the start of the year, that they had injuries, and I think they've shown that in the last few weeks. They're getting players back. They're starting to play as a team.
Daniel Smith kicking goals.
Chris Stone kicking goals.
Yes.
Pretty dangerous old pairing up forward.
Old pairings, right?
But watching Lexington last week, even in the wet weather, they were that clinical with their disposal that I think they'll just be too good for Harcourt team.
Yeah, I think Lexington as well, one of the form sides of the season so far. But moving on to the last game this week, it's match of the round by the length of the Flemington Straight, really, when you consider it. Navarre taking on Newstead out at Navarre. The reigning premiers and the undefeated side coming up against Newstead side that have dropped just 1 game so far this season. This should be a beauty.
Yeah, it should indeed. I'm going to go with Navarre in this one. Newstead, I think, have just been probably on the slide a little bit, even though they've only lost 1 game. They have dropped a little bit of form, and Navarre just shows no signs of slowing down. But match of the year, I'd say, this one.
It's really not that dissimilar a build-up to last year's qualifying final between the two sides, where we were all thinking that Navarre were a good thing. They were going in as favourites, and then Newstead went out, played a really physical game, and knocked them over, and went straight into that preliminary final, and forced Navarre to go through the hard way to win the flag. It wouldn't surprise me if they try and do something similar again. The difference is that the form that Navarre's been in recent weeks is almost irrepressible for mine. I'm tipping Navarre because I can't tip against them. That's the reason. They have shown me this year no reason to tip against them, and it's not going to change this week. Newstead need to give me a reason to basically show me that they can come up against Navarre later on in the season and give them a shake. If they get to within 4 or 5 goals, I'll be impressed. Because nobody's got that close to Navarre this season, not even Lexington.
Yeah, like you said, Newstead do play a physical style of football, but I think Navarre's probably even a little bit bigger this year. Probably won't be as intimidated. and they've got those forwards that we know about, Ash Driscoll, and that's going to force Newstead to maybe take Mark Ranty away from goals to maybe play down back, and it could have an effect on their goal scoring power.
It could indeed. Sorry, just waving to the crowd that's forming to get your autograph after we finish filming.
Weekly thing.
It is indeed, which after we finish filming is very, very shortly, because that's the last game for the week and we're going to wrap things up from here. It's going to be another very interesting weekend.
Should be indeed.
Sam, thanks for joining us once again on the MCDFNL preview show.
Always a pleasure, mate. I'll see you next week.
Pleasure is all mine, and the pleasure is all of those watching on the MCDFNL website at the moment. We'll be back next week with more MCDFNL footy preview. We'll see you then.